What if I told you that the most impactful part of working with a marketing agency isn't the what, the website, the videos, or the ads? Now, all those things are important, and how they're handled from strategy to execution also matters. But the single most impactful factor is the who. That's right. The account manager that you work with on a regular basis will make or break your experience and your results. So today, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to pull back the curtain and bring you inside that role with three of the people who do it every day for some of the leading companies in the lawn and landscape industry. Welcome to the Landscape Leadership Podcast, where we dive into all things marketing and sales for the lawn and landscape industry. I am your host, Chad Diller, and I'm excited because we're doing something a little bit different today and we're shaking things up. Sometimes we invite clients or other industry experts outside of our organization on as guests. But today, I want to do something different. I invited three of our team members, the account managers who serve as the main point of contact for our clients. So we have some other very talented team members that are specialized in their various areas like website projects, SEO, social media, video ads, etc. But today is all about the account managers. So welcome, Kyle, James, and Drew. Thanks for joining me today. I know that you were a little reluctant to do this, so thanks so much for chipping in. I think this is going to be really great because I get a lot of questions in the sales process, and one of them that comes up almost every time is, so if we decide to work with you, who is the person we're going to be working with on a daily basis, and what does that look like? And I think that's a really great question. It's the reason I wanted to have this episode on our podcast, because whether someone that's listening to this or watching it decides to go with us or not, I think it's a question that they should ask any marketing agency. And I also get a lot of feedback on you guys throughout the year from clients. And I believe, as well as our clients believe, that you three gentlemen are one of the primary reasons why clients stay with us 5 or 10 or more years, because you just do a great job. So we're going to jump right into some questions I think are really relevant for our audience today. Give you a brief chance to introduce yourself. And as you listen or watch this episode, you're going to realize that these aren't really the typical marketing agency account manager stories, and it's going to be a pretty interesting discussion. All right, so let's get started. James, I want to start with you first. Give us just a brief background of how you ended up at Landscape Leadership. How are you connected to the green industry?
Yeah. So I worked in the field for about 10 years here in Pittsburgh for companies that did maintenance and installation. And, like a lot of small companies, you kind of start with a handful of crews. I was on a crew doing install work. And then as the companies grew, you move up into being an operations manager, then an account manager, sales, design. So did all of that for about a decade, and was always the guy, with my education, doing the marketing for these companies. This is the kind of thing where it's like you talk about it in meetings, it sounds like a good idea, and then you get busy or a mower breaks down and then people forget about it. So I always enjoyed doing it. I found the resources from Landscape Leadership very helpful in some of the work I was doing. And when I was ready to make a move, it felt natural to reach out, and it's been almost 3-4 years now, and it's been great.
Yeah, we're grateful to have you here. And I think, a lot of aspects of your experience are really helpful to interact with our clients. But one specifically in sales, the experiences that you've had, selling to homeowners, selling to property managers, that practical experience really impacts our client relationships. So how do you see, like in a tangible way, that sales experience intersecting with the lawn, landscape, tree service, pest control companies that we work with?
I think it's important to remember, because we interact with our clients, these companies, we don't interact with their customers. And ultimately, those are the people you're trying to speak to with the marketing, right? I think putting myself back in that kind of sales position, like a landscape salesperson position, you remember the questions that people ask. If you've done it for any length of time, you remember the questions that you hear 100 times a day. I think in the marketing position now, if we can, help position our clients where we're answering those questions before their guys ever get there for the consultation, or kind of give readers, customers that light bulb moment, like, oh man, why didn't I think of that? If we can reach that moment, early in the marketing before anyone even steps foot on the property. I just want to help position our clients as experts and not just, hey, we're a company, you're a customer, let's get this done. But we understand what you're going through. We're here to answer your questions. And I think we can help them do that.
Yeah, it's one of these practical things that we can offer to our clients. It's a value. It's how we kind of differentiate ourselves compared to like the generalist marketing agencies or even green industry marketing agencies that, someone might have worked for a landscaper for a summer. I think everybody has. But I really appreciate some of these great questions you bring and you say, hey, customers ask this all the time. This would be a great idea for an email campaign or a video topic or a blog resource. And that's really helped our clients to create some really great content. So I want to go next to Kyle. So Kyle Larson is been with us the longest on the account management team. Kyle had a little bit of different path that kind of intersected into the green industry. So Kyle, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about your journey in the green industry and with marketing?
Sure. Yeah. I've been, like Chad said, I've been working here for about 4 years now, a little over 4 years. But prior to that, I've worked with a large green industry company doing their marketing and other service industry companies as well. So kind of a wide range of kind of how to serve those in those specific areas. Specifically to lawn care, the company that I was working for was located all over the country. So I got a lot of experience kind of dealing with that in different markets and different weather and things like that.
And we have, clients all across the US too. And seasonality kind of plays into that. You might think, oh, March is the time for this. Well, maybe not, depending where you're located at in the country. And so we have, clients as far as north as New England. We have ones down in Florida and Texas. We have some out west, and it all kind of changes and varies. So how do you see like this nuance? I think seasonality is oblivious, but how do you see the nuances of different areas of the country impacting how you orchestrate campaigns and different initiatives for our clients?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, lawn care isn't based on months. It's based on lots of different things like soil temperature, grass type, geography. So what might work in Ohio, it's not necessarily going to work in the South. The language you use also varies geographically because we work exclusively with the green industry clients across the country. We see these language differences firsthand, and it's not just semantics. It directly impacts leads. So, for example, lawn care in Ohio and Illinois versus lawn maintenance in Florida and Texas, different terms. Or the parkway in the Midwest versus easement, the grass strip in the Southeast. It's just very different depending on where you're at, and we can kind of hone in on that because we work with people from all over the country.
All right. And finally, let's kick it off to the third guy, Drew Holler. Drew, give us a little bit of background about how you got involved in the green industry and marketing.
Yeah. So thanks for having me, Chad. I started off coming out of college looking for a paycheck. So I started working at a landscaping company in Boulder, Colorado. And from there, I went from, very similar path to James, working from crew work up to foreman, up to eventually purchasing, acquisitions, getting into the ops management by the end of my time there. I spent about 9 years working with this company. And then we worked with landscape leadership. And I had been doing a lot of marketing efforts with this company, a lot of different hands in different buckets. And when I was ready for a big life change, I made the jump over to the team here at Landscape Leadership. Yeah, it was great to have you. We had a fun time doing a project with that company, and they continue to do well. So, Drew, I'm going to talk about some of your operations experience. We talked on the sales side a little bit with James. We talked about from the multiple campaign management all across the country with Kyle, but I want to talk a little about this operations background. How do you feel like understanding the bigger picture within landscape operations influences the marketing that you do for the clients that you work with? Yeah. So anyone that's spent any time in the green industry understands that every year is different. You see different things every year, different things pop up. If you have technicians in the field that are seeing something happening, an explosion of boxwood tree moths, rampant lawn disease in the middle of the summer, those are opportunities that appear And it's important that you have a team that can help identify those openings and really try and capitalize on getting some sales out of that. When you're talking with your operations team, sort out the jargon, the technical jargon that they're using in the field, make it digestible for a customer that is wondering what's going on with my lawn. Why are my boxwoods struggling right now? Translate that into more layman's terms. And then if customers understand what's happening in their lawns, in their landscapes, they're a lot more likely to move forward with acting on some sort of opportunity to alleviate that.
Yeah. And you, that helps to kind of like tie all these pieces together. We do all these multiple things for clients, and knowing that operational background allows you to talk about these issues with clients without them spending a half an hour explaining them to you because you have a little background. So I think that practical experience, the experience that Kyle talked about running campaigns throughout the year all around the country, and what James talked about, having time in the sales process, has really helped enhance our client relationships. So that's something from your perspective, audience, is if you're going to talk to a marketing agency, make sure you're asking them, who are we going to be working with? And explain to me in some kind of detail, what is the experience of the people that are going to be my point people in our relationship. I want to talk a little bit now and shift and talk a little bit about the relationships. Everybody in the landscape industry says we're in the relationship business, so they understand this. And the same thing's true with a marketing agency. And we have a different model here because, we try not to saddle you guys with like dozens of accounts. I mean, I've even heard horror stories of agency account managers that have 25, 30, 50 accounts, and they just can't get to know those company owners and the nuances for each of them. I think this really impacts the relationships we have with our clients, and it's questions that you should ask if you're hiring a marketing agency of how many of these relationships does my account manager have? How can they get to know the depth of our business? So Kyle, we see, within these relationships, every company owner or point person that we have, they operate a little differently. Like from the scale of like, we can never get a hold of them to they're super active and engaged, and both and anything on that spectrum is okay. Explain how your relationship with a client changes based on their preferences of how involved they want to be.
Yeah, Chad, I have both. I think I have a good portion of my clients are in both of these buckets, but the highly engaged client allows great collaboration on things. Generally, it helps projects move faster as well, which is nice. The hard to reach client on the other hand, I generally will provide a due date. And for most things, if I do not hear anything, I can just kind of move on beyond that. And it keeps everything moving efficiently. This style usually does allow for more freedom of creative, and often lends itself to not needing approval on all elements, which is really nice. Again, I usually have a combination of both types. And as long as extremes are not going on either side of that, they both work pretty well.
Yeah. And we have, various mechanisms to try to get a hold of the clients that are hard to reach. We understand contractors are super busy, especially like right now when we're recording this, we're in the 100 days of hell that they call, in the beginning of the landscape season. And, whether it's carrier pigeon, smoke signal, or Chad sending a text message that says, dude, Kyle's trying to get a hold of you. Will you please get back to him? And our clients are like, I'm so sorry. And we have to do that from time to time, but it's fun having that array. And we allow our clients to be as involved as they want to be, but they do have to be involved. So it's really important. And I appreciate how you pivot based on their preferences. Drew, let's talk a little bit about teams though, because we have, again, another spectrum. And this is a good thing for the audience to make sure they communicate to a marketing agency that they might be considering hiring, is how they operate, like how decisions are made, who all is going to be involved from the contractor side. We have this on the gamut. Like you just work with the owner and that's really the only person you ever talk to. But then we have some large companies, because most of our organizations we work with are between $2 and $50 million. So sometimes we have several people that want to be involved. How do we navigate that complexity and make sure things keep moving? Because I know you had some experience. You're from a really large company.
Yeah. So it's, marketing it's a big deal, right? You just hired a new marketing firm. Maybe your website's really outdated and it's really old. Everyone's really excited to get a new, fresh coat of paint on everything. And a lot of people want to be involved in that. At the end of the day, though, too many cooks in the kitchen end up making word soup on a website. So you really have to be focused on the SEO strategies. What's best for getting the website seen? How do you distill the information for the client so that they can get what they're looking for in a more concise manner than, going on and on about what kind of software you use for, your lawn care estimates or your design. Oftentimes, the best situation that we find is that you assign a point person. Someone that their job, their role in this engagement is to consolidate all of the feedback from all of the parties into one straightforward feedback. That way, everyone's heard, everyone gets their voice in, but at the end of the day, there's one person that's kind of that stopgap of, hey, we don't really need to go into this, or, this isn't really important. We need to focus on this. It creates one stream of consciousness, and that helps on every end. It helps translate it into the website. It helps it on our, the account manager's end too, of I'm not getting feedback from one person and then 5 days later I get conflicting feedback from a different person. So it's very important that you have that one stream of feedback coming in from clients so that it's, digestible for everyone involved.
Yeah, it keeps things moving along. And, everybody has their own personal stake in a marketing engagement when you hire an agency. Like we'll talk to subject matter experts, like maybe the one person we're talking to is the GM and they've clearly, or the owner, and they've outlined the strategic priorities. We're growing these parts of the business. We know that we could focus on everything, but we're going to, shift most of our focus for this year or maybe the next 2 years to a couple of these, sore spots to help them grow. And then we have a subject matter expert that we interview that is involved on maybe the second priority. And all of a sudden they're feeding ideas and suggesting changes of focus and that sort of thing, because it's important to them. It's important to their department. But we always have to balance that. Hey, this is the feedback we got. You might want to talk to them so they understand kind of the lists and the order priorities. And I think it helps us kind of run interference to make sure everybody feels valued in experience. And I really love that, our clients are really good at discussing things as a team and then looking, okay, well, you're saying this and you're saying this. These are competing. Which one is what we're going with here? Taking out the things that contradict, and then also being able to kind of get things moving in a quick basis. James, let's talk a little bit about, we have this term we say, speaking digital without the accent. I think most of the people that listen to this podcast are from the landscape industry, and they may know some terms when it comes to SEO and digital marketing, and they talk to agencies, and often I think everybody in any industry is guilty of this, where they talk down and they use a lot of jargon. How do you help communicate to clients the essential information that they need without throwing in unnecessary terms or having things be confusing? How do you make it clear for them?
It's one of those things that the conversations get better as the relationship goes longer and you get to know your clients and what they're dealing with. I will say that, our core software, we have a marketing dashboard that we share with every client, and it's full of reports. And if you're looking at it for the first time, it might seem overwhelming. As time goes on, you get to know what you're looking at. It becomes very helpful. So it's got reports that update in real time, some that need updates manually that we give on a monthly basis, and then we share those results with our clients. It's easy to look at all those different marketing things and just leave them as marketing. But like I said, the longer you work with a client and you get to know their business, you kind of understand, is this metric something we need to worry about? Is it representing something that's going on in the field? An example I had, we track leads wherever they come from. Could be phone calls, could be form submissions, emails, what have you. I had a customer whose total number of leads coming in were healthy and good, and we weren't experiencing any problems, no bad feedback, but finding out that unlike any of our other clients, there's an overwhelming number of phone calls and very few form submissions, to the point where like we're looking at this going, is the website working the way it should? But doing some more digging, you find out it was an effect of that market. Broadband wasn't as widely available. Almost all of his customers are working from mobile devices. And then you start to think, okay, are we going to do these big, long pages, for example, something that doesn't look great on a phone but looks great on a website? Well, what good is that if all of your customers are working from their phones? So it's just an example of, you see these trends, you look at these reports every month, and you kind of figure out when something is outside of the norm, and then you start digging. It could be digging into a marketing thing, or, as we talk to our clients every month, I like to ask, how are things in the field? Tell me what's going on out there. And usually that's when you put the whole picture together, what they're sharing from their teams, from their customers. You put that against the marketing metrics. A lot of things kind of solve themselves at that point.
Yeah, I think that's important when you talk to a potential marketing partner to understand how they're going to report on results. So if you're considering hiring an agency, ask them to show you examples of those dashboards. I've done that in the sales process a few times, and say, are you just going to send this to us, or is there more conversation about it? The one thing that we started doing is, here are these live dashboards. You can look at them at any point in time, but you guys each just spend about 5 minutes recording a video of the dashboard and then saying, okay, this is why that chart looks really great this month. Or this is something questionable. This is something I'd like to try next month or for the next couple of months, or let's keep an eye on this. And that's the type of things you need to learn before you hire a marketing agency in the relationship. How is the account manager or the person you're working with explaining that information to you? So that's great. All right, James, let me ask you another question here. One of the, this is not a unique core value for any company to say that they're proactive, but we really try to embody that here, especially from an account manager standpoint. We talked about how to do it with reporting here. What is a proactive stance as it relates to outlining a strategy look like for a client? So give me an example. I'll often go through a large experience and project with the client when we first start working with them. We lay out this first year plan, and sometimes even the sales process, they say, well, what does year 2 look like? And then I explain to them what you and I do and what I do with the other account managers as we start looking forward to the next year. What does that collaboration look like? It's not just the account manager. It's not just the strategist. How do we work with the client to make sure we're shaping the next year the way that they want it to be?
It's an ongoing process. I don't think you sit down at month 11 of a year-long engagement and go, okay, what are we going to do? Right? You're keeping notes all year and just remembering pain points that you might run into, things that could be potential opportunities, or just taking next steps. The first year might be building the website, and that consumes a lot of time. So you couldn't do X, Y, and Z other programs. Now you're into year 2. You can try to grow things a little bit. Clients get to know us a little bit better. So yeah, year to year, it's always different. We're rarely treading water. I don't think I've only been here for going on 3 years now, and things we were doing in my first year compared to now, it feels like a different job at times. So you're always looking for those opportunities, always keeping notes. And like I said, with the reporting, I always like to lead conversations, asking what's going on in the field. And you just start to get a feeling for what they're dealing with. Could be labor, could be something in the market. It's just anything that they might be dealing with. Having that experience, if you get to know those problems, then you get to know how we might offer some solution. Obviously, marketing isn't the answer for everything, but if there are opportunities for us to lend our hand and make a process better, I think you've always got your ear to the ground for those opportunities.
Yeah, and we have a thread that we keep for each client when these conversations happen, and we'll message back and forth, and you'll be like, hey, he needs 3 new crew members in this type of crew, or, irrigation was this % this last year, and now they're well staffed. They want to ramp this up next year. And we keep these notes because then when we look at the next year engagement, it's not like we have these canned programs that we sell to clients. We shape the next engagement based on their specific needs. So that's another question as you interview a marketing partner. How does that renewal process or ongoing process look to pivot and change as we look forward? Kyle, let's talk a little bit about this planning ahead. there comes times, like we understand what the priorities are for the next year, but there comes times when, the best plan between you, me, and your client, things happen and they need to make some pivots and changes. What are some ways that even within that year engagement, we've pivoted for companies?
Depending on weather, sometimes we need to move communication up or hold on to it for a while. Some services might not be performing as well, and we will shift communication to feature a different service. We always put a plan together for email and text messaging, and without fail, it usually gets adjusted at some point during the season. We also have incidents when a branch will close or a new branch will open or a client will shift out of a specific service, such as commercial or something like that. And we always have to adjust there as well.
Yeah, it's always changing. And I think we love the variety, but it's not like we're so locked into, no, these are the specific campaigns and the specific things we're doing. We do pivot. We do reallocate dollars that we were putting over here to something else going in the future. We don't want to constantly keep doing that, but there are, probably a quarter of the clients have something significant we need to adjust throughout the year. So it's really great to see you being proactive and learning about those things. And then we sometimes talk about how we can present a solution to them. Drew, I think we've made things easier for our clients over the years, and one of the ways that we've done that is they often bring initiatives from a marketing perspective that they want to do that were outside of the scope of what we provided. And we've added things in our service offering to clients. It's all, within that marketing funnel. But what I say is we go deeper with our clients because they appreciate the relationships that we have. And I think that's a great question to ask when you're hiring a marketing agency, like, what all do you do? Like, what are the ways that you can help me? Or can you help me with this part? Can you help me with that part? Well, if you can help me with that, can you do it all or can you do part of it? And I think they really value that. So explain how this can contrast with what contractors might be used to with working with multiple partners, and how do we make things easier?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of contractors, I think, have experience. We work with this guy for printing our shirts and our hats. We work for this mail house for printing our mailer and shipping it off. They're used to a lot of different contractors for a lot of different things. So when you get someone that can do it all kind of in one, and including your website management, reporting on leads, it's all a kind of different approach where it's a much more holistic look at everything. Your email campaign integrates with a landing page on your website to track things. The design of your direct mail piece can match a page on your website or a social media campaign. You can send an email marketing campaign that then has, a couple weeks later, you follow it up with an SMS message to just kind of keep you in the top of their minds for their customers. Digital ads, Google search, Google local service ads, like all that stuff is all connected. And having one person that kind of manages it all, it helps the brand voice stay the same and consistent across everything that you're putting out there. And that's just not something that a lot of companies have a good grasp on of what is the voice? How do we make that cohesive across all these different contractors? At the end of the day, you want to really have someone that can help clean up that mud puddle. That is marketing. Where do your leads come from? And a lot of that, when you're combining all of these things together, can help with that lead attribution.
Yeah, I always tell clients, even in the sales process, before they become a client, whatever you're spending money on, we want to help you track it and figure out what's working. So it's okay if we don't do some of that stuff. Like, we'll do direct mail design and then someone else ships it and sends it. But we want to build a landing page. We want to have QR codes. We want to have call tracking numbers. We want, if they're spending $35,000 or $40,000 on a mailer with someone else, we want them to track the results. And then we want to enhance it. We want to make sure what we're doing over here, the right hand knows what the left hand's doing. And we're the agency of record. And so we direct the strategy, we talk to them, we sit at the table. And that's another question you should ask when you hire a marketing agency. How do you interact with the other people that I might have in my marketing mix? How do we make that all cohesive? How do we coordinate that together? It's a really important question. All right, as we wrap up, I want to ask you guys a question. Basically, what's the hill that you'll die on when it comes to giving our audience, these green industry professionals, some advice about hiring marketing agencies?
I would go with fix a leaky bucket in the lead follow-up process before you spend a ton of money on marketing.
That's right. Yeah, you can often say that, there's a, we get this many leads and we're getting this many sales and we need more leads. Well, maybe not always. Maybe there's a leaky hole that is kind of related to your sales process or sales personnel or how you follow up or whatever. We're not all about just like, let's spend more money on marketing and advertising. Let's talk about like things more holistically. That's another great question you can ask a marketing agency. How will you address things that are connected to the rest of my team? And how can we track the ROI? What are we holding you accountable for? What should we be holding ourselves accountable for? Those are great. Drew, what's your piece of advice that you like to give?
I would say if you tell me most of your leads are coming from your trucks or your branding, it's just telling me that you are not spending a lot of money on your marketing budget.
Yeah, often people come to me and they could be large companies. They could be $15, $20 million. And they say, we really haven't spent much money on marketing. And that's pretty amazing. They have really great brand recognition. They have good processes. They're selling really well, but they're kind of plateauing and they're saying, we just get everything from word of mouth. And also they see our trucks and they say, but we know we could have way more. And that's a great point to point out. James, what would be the piece of advice, the hill you would die on?
It's not groundbreaking, but I would just say keep an open mind to change. The things that we do to help clients now, a lot of them may not have been available a couple years ago. You see how quickly AI has changed things. So it can be a little head spinning to feel like you just got a process down and then we come back and say, that's not really working so well anymore. We're going to try this instead. It happens. It changes fast. As long as you're open to changing fast and meeting your customers where they are, I think you'll be in good shape.
Yeah, the formula for acquiring clients is constantly changing. And thanks technology for doing that, but it also makes our jobs really fun too. So, well, thank you guys for joining in here today. I want to personally thank you just for what you do for our clients. Like I said, you're a huge part of the success that they have and we have as an organization. And, we promise as a brand to help our clients attract new clients themselves and increase their annual revenue and grow their bottom line. And I think I can speak for myself as well as the rest of our team and our clients that we love working with you guys. You're just doing a fantastic job. So thanks so much for joining in on the conversation today.
Thanks, Chad.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
I hope that we achieved our goal for this episode, and that's giving you really great questions to ask when you're considering hiring a marketing agency. I hope you can now understand how you and your account manager could work together for shared success. And if you love episodes like this, do me a favor, share it with your industry peers, subscribe wherever you find your podcast. Thanks so much for joining us today. Here's to becoming a leader in your marketplace.